Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
Thank you, Troy. I see 1:29. We'll give it until 1:30 to get started. Oh, there we go. So we normally have a pastor's invocation for our meetings. We don't have a pastor here with us today, so I'll invite you to join me in a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you very much. So it's August 22nd, 2023. Welcome to our Board of County Commissioners business meeting. I will call it to order. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Do we have certification of the agenda for the county attorney?
You do. The county attorney's office has reviewed all items on the agenda in appropriate jurisdiction, and notice has been made.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have none, thank you.
No, sir. And I have none either. With that, we are going to move on to item 2, which is ceremonies and proclamations, and we do have some exciting employee recognition. So we'll begin with Matt Felix and his 10-year anniversary. Matt and team.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Emily Wren. I'm the Deputy of Motor Vehicle, and I'm privileged with the opportunity to talk to you today in honor of Matt Felix's 10-year anniversary at Douglas County. Unfortunately, his supervisor, Jennifer Roberts, is unable to attend, so I'll be reading her comments on her behalf. Today, we celebrate Matt and his 10 years with Douglas County. For 2 of those years, I've had the honor of being Matt's supervisor. If I could summarize Matt in 5 words, it would be dependable, welcoming, adaptable, empathetic, and driven. Matt's ability to drive and help people are consistently shown in the positive customer service surveys he receives, and here are 2 examples. Matt was very friendly and helpful. He explained the procedure and was extremely courteous. Matt was amazing and super knowledgeable about what I needed to do. He helped me figure out what I needed and what I should do with the registration of another car I'm about to sell. Awesome. Last year, Matt won Mentor of the Year for Motor Vehicle, which is a peer-nominated award. He won this because of his welcoming and because he is welcoming and supportive to his mentees. Matt shows his adaptability by frequently changing his work schedule to meet the needs of his team. Matt, I appreciate you and thank you for all the hard work and your willingness to grow over the last 10 years. I can't wait to see how the next 10 go. When I was on the clerk and recorder administration team, one of my focuses was process improvements, and I started by meeting with the different divisions and doing process walks. Matt was one of my first, and I sat with him on the front line at the Highlands Ranch Motor Vehicle office, and I remember how welcoming he was and how willing he was to answer my endless questions. Secretly, I referred to him, he doesn't know this, as Post-it Note Matt. Because his computer was surrounded by little details he wanted to make sure he kept in mind. To this day, he continues to demonstrate a high level of pride and responsibility that he takes for his work in serving our citizens and his coworkers. He is engaged and regularly provides feedback on how we can improve processes and our service to our citizens. Jennifer mentioned it in her comments, and I want to paint a picture to the level of service and impact Matt has had over the years. He has received over 400 responses to our customer service Your Feedback Matters survey, and has received a 99.4 very satisfied customer service rating. Matt is diligent in his efforts to help people all around him, and we're grateful for his service to our citizens and our team.
Great. Matt, did you want to make any comments?
First off, thank you for having me, commissioners, and
everyone here. Just a big thank you as far as 10 years, and in all of that, to have now 2 kids. I had none when I started here. Beautiful house in the county, and it's just to have all those memories tied together with serving the county and seeing all the positive growth we've had. It just means the world to me. Emily, Sherry, Jen, Jack, everybody that's in clerk and recorder, I've more than I could name. They're just amazing people, and it's hard to keep up with everyone else, but it's just been an honor, and thank you so much for this and everything, and hopefully I'll see you in another 5, maybe even 10.
You're gonna make me do it again.
Matt, thank you. Commissioner comments?
Matt, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your service to the citizens of Douglas County. What I heard you say is you talked about your family and your kids. And I think the family, God bless you, the family analogy is really important when we talk about Douglas County. I've worked in lots of different places, and I have never been in a place that has a more family feel. And, if the rest of your staff want to stand up, so we see, Sherry, Jack, all you guys, this is just a small part of the team that came to support you and honor you. And I would like to join them in thanking you for your service, even though you're called Post-it Note Matt. I'll have to remember that. Maybe if I used more notes, I'd be more organized. But thank you for your service and congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal?
Well, Matt, based on your body language, sorry to pull you up here in front of everybody and make an example of you, but not sorry, actually, because everyone deserves recognition for work well done, and especially when that is work that's day in and day out, which, thank you, Emily, for sharing the performance stats, because, Matt, I'm sure that is not common. And uncommon, common work of excellence always needs recognition. So, hey, thanks for being here for 10 years. We're better because of you.
Well, and I would just say thank you for that, Commissioner Teal. Douglas County, from my very first experience as a planning commissioner, is a place where good people are doing good things, and you are a paragon of that. 10 years is no easy feat, but you're working with some really great leaders, and we've known Emily for a long time and are so thankful for Jack and Sherry and the entire team over at the clerk's office. It's really a tremendous group. We say that you're the vice presidents of First Impressions. Oftentimes, you're the face of the county that people see every day, and you represent us so well. So how about a huge round of applause for Matt's 10-year anniversary. Congratulations, Matt. We're fortunate in the county to actually be celebrating another 10-year recognition. Would Morgan Morhart and team come up?
10 years of Morgan Morhart is something that I think everyone's a little bit surprised at. Just for a flavor of how it is dealing with Morgan, he's told me numerous times that he's really outrageously good looking and able to run the Parks Operations Center also. So, he is kind of good looking. He's been busy as of late working to create a culture in the Parks Department that has not existed in the past. It's about leadership, it's about accountability, it's about communication, safety, and most of all, employee satisfaction. He's worked very hard on those things, and I'm glad he's along for the ride on that. It's bearing fruit right now. We said communication, and there's one thing I'd like you to be aware of, commissioners. If you ever see him do this, something's coming your way, and you might want to brace for it. One of the other things he's been working on is getting ready for meeting commissioner interests, initiatives, requirements, other things of that nature. He's led the charge on volunteers. He's led the charge on weed management planning and studies. He's worked on memorial benches. And he's also done a lot as far as fireworks recently. He's kind of picked up the ball for Steve. He is working on data-driven decision-making. All these things are very important for us in how we shift the way we do business. And lastly, I think you may have seen him in some of the pictures, was instrumental in making sure that the tornado recovery at Highland Heritage was done very well, efficiently, and you really took control, and you were a great yard boss, Morgan. So I think I'm very pleased that he's on the team, and he's pointed us in the right direction. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. Steve?
So on that note, thank you again, Commissioners. On that note, he is a guy that's willing to sell out to make sure the county succeeds. He put in some 14, 16-hour days to make sure that site met the needs of the citizens after the tornado. He, like Terrence said, has met a lot of different needs, a lot of different projects as of late, but Morgan is the person, is kind of what I wanted to highlight. So he is a husband and a father of 3. His 3 kids are involved in a lot of different things. He is also a football coach. He's an avid hunter. He's been all over the world chasing game of all different varieties. Along his coaching resume, he has recently added gymnastics coach. The great thing about Morgan is he's able to take his environment and learn, and then he comes into the office and tells me now how he's teaching his daughter how to do gymnastics. How do you do that? I don't know. So anyway, I think that his coaching that he does in his personal life has led to a lot of our team successes, and he's able to share a lot of knowledge with people. And we are just very, very happy, and we're very lucky to have Morgan. So,
Steve, thank you. Morgan, any comments?
Just thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity. 10 years, went through a few different levels along the way, but just how grateful I am to Douglas County for the opportunity that it has provided me and my family.
Thank you for that, Morgan. Any Commissioner comments?
So Morgan, are you going to do a backflip for us?
Yeah, I don't know how to do it. I just know how to tell them.
You know, years ago, you were sitting in a truck in the parking lot at the substation, and I noticed a Douglas County vehicle there, so I walked over and knocked on the window to find out who was in the truck and say hello and get to know them. And the look on your face, I think you were probably expecting a complaint. And I just asked who you are and what you guys were doing. I was a county commissioner, and I'm a better commissioner when I learn who the staff are and what you do, and if there's something I could do to make your life better. And so ever since then, I have known who you are. I see you at Highlands Heritage Park, and during the tornado, you were there every time I walked through that park, went up there to see what was going on. And you came right over and said, Commissioner, can I help you? And I'm like, no, you're supposed to help them. I'm just being nosy and snooping to see how things are going. And it went very well. Even just now, I was telling you that I've noticed how the parking lot in Highlands Heritage Park is a mess. And you launched into how you're working to get it fixed and all the details. And that's why you're such a great asset to Douglas County, because you know what needs to be done and you know how to get it done. And I credit that to your 2 mentors behind you, Steve and Terrence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal?
Well, hey, good job, man. I had a time in my career where I kind of worked my way up from the bottom into supervisory level and to management level. And, I know that that's the sum of a whole lot of decisions. Sometimes ones you look back on and wish you could take back, and then other times decisions that others look on and say, well done. So I think that's great that you're here, you've been here for 10 years. Terrence and Steve were very clear in outlining the things that you've been given point on for the county. And quite frankly, it sounded to me like a lot of those are ones that came right from the dais here. And so the responsibility is being placed on you to actually execute the will of the people of Douglas County. No pressure, but thank you for doing that. Thank you for taking it on. Thanks for showing up. and doing the job every day.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner Teal. And Morgan, when we think about the fact that nearly 90% of our citizens passed a recent ballot measure around parks and open space, parks is no joke in Douglas County, and so you all have a really big responsibility, and I see your boss, Steve, nodding his head. You all are powerhouses in the county, and we are so thankful for the services that you render on a daily basis, selflessly in order to serve citizens. I was sharing in a work session earlier today that we got to do the first ever DOUGNAD, D-O-U-G-N-A-D, after a Scandinavian tradition, where people just go out, they get coffee and donuts, and then they go and clean their community. We did that on Saturday, but it would not have happened without all of you in the Parks Department linking arms, getting people out there to serve, and watching the kids learn about what it means to serve the public was just incredible. And in fact, one little guy, 3 years old, curly blonde hair, was covered in mud head to toe. And his poor dad was just trying to plant a couple of trees. And we leaned over to the Parks Department and said, hey, could you turn the sprinklers on? And you guys did. And I think you made the day of all of those young men and women that are out there learning what it means to give back. And I know for my family, we all came to Douglas County because it is beautiful. I mean, the park, Highland Heritage Park, I used to live right down the street, and it's hard to clean it up because there's really never anything not clean in that park. So thank you for representing our county parks in such a tremendous way. Let's give Morgan a huge round of applause for his tenure. Thank you. Thank you all, and thanks to the team that showed up to support him today. So with that, we'll move on to item 3, which is our consent agenda. Let me just ask, is there any citizen comment with regard to this item 3 on the consent? Any citizen comment either in person or online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
I have a motion to approve the requests in all items A through O of the consent agenda. Item P has been pulled from the agenda.
Second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion passes 3-0. So with item P being pulled, is that something, let me just ask council, is that something that we need to hear today on the regular agenda?
It is not.
We're just pulling it entirely, okay. So with that, we'll move on to our regular agenda today, and it is item for regrettably, a resolution for the formal censure of Douglas County Commissioner Laura Thomas. I know we do have a resolution. If Mr. Commissioner George Teal would like to read that resolution.
Yes, Chair. This is a resolution for the formal censure of Douglas County Commissioner Laura Thomas. Whereas pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 30-11-101, the following resolution is adopted for the welfare of Douglas County. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners adopted a Commissioner's Code of Conduct, the Commissioner's Code of Conduct states in relevant part, the Board of County Commissioners commits itself to ethical, businesslike, and lawful conduct, including proper use of authority and appropriate decorum when acting as the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioners shall support the maintenance of a positive, professional, and productive workplace environment at the county and inspire confidence in the functioning of county government. Commissioners shall conduct themselves at all times in a manner that is professional, respectful, courteous, and civil towards one another and those with whom they engage in their official capacity. Whereas the Commissioner's Code of Conduct further states, the Code of Conduct section of the policy manual expresses standards of ethical conduct expected for commissioners. Commissioners themselves have the primary responsibility to ensure that ethical standards are understood and met, and that the public can continue to have full confidence in the integrity of local government. The Board of County Commissioners may impose sanctions on commissioners whose conduct does not comply with the board's ethical standards, such as reprimand, formal censure, loss of committee assignment, and/or budget restriction. Whereas, in public comments related to the Douglas County Cultural Council, A volunteer board, which represents Douglas County in the Colorado Scientific, Cultural, and Facilities District, Commissioner Laura Thomas criticized the Cultural Council, questioning the performance of the Cultural Council, and employed a tone meant to negatively represent the Cultural Council's work. Members of the Douglas County Cultural Council reported feeling publicly shamed and attacked by Commissioner Thomas's comments. Members of the Cultural Council reported feeling their values were compromised and morale diminished by Commissioner Thomas's comments. James Smith, ex-chair of the Douglas County Cultural Council, attributed his resignation from the Cultural Council to Commissioner Thomas's comments. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners determined such behavior violates the Douglas County Commissioners' Code of Conduct, is unprofessional, and not an acceptable representation of board practices, it is conduct unbecoming of one of its members and tarnishes Douglas County's reputation. Be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Douglas, State of Colorado, publicly censure Douglas County Commissioner Laura Thomas for behavior contrary to the Douglas County Commissioners' Code of Conduct and conduct detrimental to Douglas County. Read for the purpose of adoption this 22nd day of August 2023 in Castle Rock, Douglas County, Colorado. And Chair, it is usually, obviously, this may be our first censure in the history of Douglas County. I'm not really sure on the history on that one, but it is customary in other boards whom levy a censure against a member to, at this time, give the censured member an opportunity to speak. I think that would be appropriate if the chair agrees.
I would agree. Thank you, Commissioner Teal. Commissioner Thomas?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to read part of an editorial that appeared this week in the local newspaper. It was written by Thelma Grimes. And it says, after months of seeming to be civil, the Douglas County Commissioners went back to their old ways with the two-member majority, deciding to pick another fight with fellow Commissioner Laura Thomas. Thomas dared to question what the Douglas County Cultural Council is doing with money the commission gives the group each year. For educational purposes, it should be stressed that money is taxpayer money, and the Cultural Council helps decide how arts and culture money should be spent. If a Douglas County resident off the street wants to know how it is being spent, public record laws require you to tell them. So, you have a commissioner questioning it. Isn't she elected to ask questions? Even if you don't like her questions, she has the right as a resident to ask. To the Cultural Council, that seems overly sensitive about Thomas's approach in asking. Sure, I agree, you're all volunteers. I love the volunteers who take time to work in our community. However, I don't love volunteer boards who want all the glory, but somehow think they should be immune to criticism. Bottom line, you are being given a portion of taxpayer dollars to spend as you think is best. I emphasize it's taxpayer money, and we have a right to weigh in if we want to. Thank you, and I'll reserve my other time for later.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Thomas. It's regrettable that we have to take this action today. It is a habitual pattern of behavior where you have publicly shamed volunteers with misinformation. A censure is a demonstration of strong disapproval by an elected board, and I certainly think that this is meritorious of that form of action. I've had a conversation directly with Thelma Grimes about what you just read and clarified that the basis of today's censure is not simply asking questions. We all ask questions. Everyone's entitled to ask questions, make comments, especially when public money is involved. But to publicly shame a volunteer for doing the right thing by an elected official, that shaming occurred, is vastly inappropriate. So I'm going to read for you the comments from Mr. James Smith, who's a private citizen that has volunteered his time, not just for 1 year, but for 5 years with the Cultural Council. When questions were asked about the Cultural Council's expenditures, the response was made very clearly that they have a rubric in place that they have established to keep funds right here in our community. That was not satisfactory to Commissioner Thomas, and a decision was made to publicly attack and criticize Mr. Smith and others on the Cultural Council. His response was this: Dear Commissioner Layden, I'm writing to express my deep concerns regarding recent actions involving the Douglas County Cultural Council and the efforts to overturn the acceptance of our previous votes. It is important to note our all-volunteer council has devoted countless hours to supporting arts, culture, and science in our community. For the past 4 years, the commissioners have approved our decisions without hesitation. Unfortunately, the recent and unprofessional actions, including publicly shaming by another elected county commissioner, referencing Commissioner Thomas, have compromised these values and diminished the council's morale. The tactics aimed at manipulating voting outcomes are not only troubling, but also undermine our unity and tarnish the county's reputation. Despite my commitment to Douglas County, the unprofessional behavior of a specific commissioner makes my continued involvement untenable. Again, this is coming from Mr. Smith. Publicly shaming an all-volunteer committee is unacceptable and contrary to effective governance. It does not denote the council's subservience. It only showcases the lack of leadership skills by the elected official. I appreciate the chance to work with you, Commissioner Layden, and the council members over the past 5 years. Serving Douglas County and all of its residents has been a joy. However, I now find it necessary to offer my resignation from the Douglas County Cultural Council. For the sake of the council and for the reputation of Douglas County, I would expect a public apology from the commissioner in question for their behavior unbecoming an elected official. At minimum, their behavior must be addressed. And Mr. Smith goes on to include an attachment detailing at length the entire rubric that they have established over a significant period of time to ensure that Douglas County citizens are well represented on the Cultural Council. I want to be clear that it was not merely the comments of one individual, although significant, James Smith chairing our Cultural Council, but it has been a series of volunteers over many years that have expressed disdain, distrust, and concern about being publicly attacked with mistruth, misinformation, and misrepresentation. It wasn't only Mr. Smith that was intending to resign, but we received significant communications from the entire board that more than just him were considering resignation. I want to be clear that over a pattern of many years, we've seen Commissioner Thomas attack our first responders, try to defund the police with misinformation in an anonymous letter with uncorroborated information distributed to hundreds. She's attacked the aerospace businesses, trying to add STEM and business incubators to our community with misinformation, saying we don't invest in economic foundations when in fact it's a graphic in our boardroom as one of our 6 core priorities that we've had all 7 years that she's been here. Our Douglas County Community Foundation has been actively attacked by Commissioner Thomas, a group that is raising money entirely to serve emergency relief in our community and address nonprofit needs. Again, these attacks were with misinformation that somehow funds were being used by the county to fund a gala for the Community Foundation, when in fact it was clarified that $0 from the county are being used for a foundation gala. And then finally, the Cultural Council with this additional misinformation that was corrected by Mr. Smith. So I'm deeply concerned. I remain very confident that Commissioner Thomas is incredibly capable, incredibly competent. She's punctual, she's very smart, she's very committed to this community. But this sort of behavior of shaming volunteers with inaccurate information cannot stand, and so I will be in support of this censure.
Chair, one thing to probably make sure the public that's viewing or in person right now understands is that despite this resolution being introduced for adoption today, the censure is already in place. The censure is already done. The question is what will be preserved in the record, which is probably a good segue, Chair, that if we do wish to stick to the traditions of the board and take public comment, It's probably good information for the public who may wish to speak in favor or against this resolution to understand. Again, the censure is actually already in place. The question is merely how it is recorded, and if you, Chair, I think we should offer it up for the public to come forward and add their voice to that record.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. And as we always say, we work for you, not the other way around. It is deeply important to us that we hear from our citizens. So with that, I'll open it up for any public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Yes, ma'am, or sir? Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, if you want to just go to the podium and state your name and where you're from for the record, please.
So I'm James Smith from Parker, Colorado. I am the ex-chair of the Cultural Council in question. For 3 consecutive years, budget overages have occurred within our program. Overages are nothing new. Our methodology has remained consistent across the previous years, and during this period, commissioners here have approved our council's actions without question or reservation. So we submitted the 2023 allocation plan on June 13th. Subsequently, we were informed of the board's desire for alterations. We were given 2 directives. 1, to focus everything of the overage strictly to Douglas County organizations, and to 2, prioritize attendance metrics. To note, there are organizations, though technically from Douglas, due to their address only, are not located in Douglas. They do not operate in Douglas, and they do not serve Douglas directly. So to take this recommendation would be sending money outside of our county, contrary to the directive. And there are even more complexities than are understood by the council. That's what we do. So we wanted to be good partners of the board, so the council met for a second allocation meeting at the board's request. At this second allocation meeting, the council recalculated our numbers, and we found the board's recommendations would have reduced funding for 89% of the organizations requesting funding. It would also have diverted over 69% of the total surplus to one organization only. Such a shift would be misaligned with our mission to serve all of Douglas County and would expose us, volunteers on the council, to potential legal disputes. So as a result, the council upheld our original funding allocation. Despite our decision, the board summoned the council for yet a third vote. Recognizing the political undertones, I offered my resignation, yet to be accepted or acknowledged. The council, however, stood their ground. They endorsed the initial funding plan a third time because it has integrity in it. It's worth mentioning that plan was subsequently approved unanimously by the 3 commissioners here today. So why are we here? Disconcertingly, inaccurate narratives combined with personal details and photographs of volunteer counsel have been published online. Numerous stakeholders, including 6 of our 8 council members, have reached out to me personally to convey their disappointment and express their fear of retaliation from our elected officials. Our council remains steadfast, prioritizing the broader interests of all Douglas County residents over a select few. Smear campaigns are intentional, premeditated effort to undermine the individual's reputation, credibility, and character. So why are we here? I want to remind everyone, Colorado's defamation law only has 3 requisites. Number 1, statements must be untrue. 2, statements must be published. And 3, the publisher must have acted negligently or with intent to harm.
And sir, I'll just remind you that it's 3 minutes and your time has expired. If
Thank
you
you.
want to wrap up for us.
Well, I just
Actually,
found it
Chair,
really
if I
funny
may.
that
Chair, if I may.
the previous
The
gentleman
public comments.
here,
Sir, let me pause you for a moment, sir. Yeah.
Chair, if I may, maybe the timer should be taken from the censured member, because, again, the censure is in place. This is merely a recordation of the act. And so in the case of the public who would wish to add to the record, I would ask that perhaps we, again, do take the timer away from the censured member and perhaps be generous with our time in allowing members of the public to comment and add to the record.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Teal. I want to make sure that we are always abiding by county policy and staying consistent in terms of how we conduct hearings. Traditionally, every citizen has 3 minutes apiece, but commissioners also do have the opportunity to ask questions and elicit additional information if such is desired. I understand that you may want additional information from the member of our Cultural Council, which may be relevant to the censure.
Particularly since he is speaking on the acts that are most proximate to the nature of the censure, that, again, his comments should not necessarily be limited.
Okay, because it's germane to the censure, and we have a commissioner that's asking for additional information related to this agenda item, I will allow it.
I'm sorry, do you have questions, or?
No, you can proceed and just provide additional information to Commissioner Teal and the board with regard to.
I was just wrapped up. I just wanted to make mention, I found it quite interesting that publicly in the news, Commissioner Thomas has stated, I will not apologize to this commission at all whatsoever, that we are too sensitive. But just a few minutes ago, to one of the gentlemen that works here, she said, and I quote, "I'm a better commissioner when I learn who you are and what you do." There has been no effort to learn who we are or what we do, only to publicly defame. So I submit my resignation again. If you choose to accept it, it is up to you. I enjoy working with this council. It has been 5 years of serving this public and bringing wonderful programs to our county. And that's part of the reason why I love being here, is that you can go to any town around this country and they all look the same. They all have a 7-Eleven. They all have a Target or a Walmart. They all have a gas station. What makes us different and unique is the individual culture that we bring into each community. That's what we fight for. That's why we're different. That's why people love Douglas County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And I'll just say, it would not be germane to today's regular agenda item to discuss your resignation, although I hope we do take that up, because in 5 years, you are probably one of the best appointees I have ever had. And each of you has jobs outside of this county. And not only are you volunteers, but you're trying to pay your bills and manage your families with private sector employment. And for you to be maligned reputationally in your business endeavors is not what you signed up for. It's okay to ask questions, to get clarification, but not to be attacked with misleading information. So I appreciate you having the courage to speak out and be here today. Additional citizen comment? Yes, ma'am. If you want to just state your name and where you're from for the record, please.
My name, sorry, these are new to me. My name is Jill Campbell, and I'm new to Highlands Ranch. I moved 2 years, August 16th, 2021. I moved here, and I chose this community because it is artistic. That the culture here, that's what makes a community thrive, is the interest in culture. I'm a writer, I'm a published author, I love art. I'm an artist, and I'm a musician. I love the fact that it brings life and light to people and inspires you to be better. If we sat around plastic and computers and things, we would be pretty boring, and I think we are sometimes. I didn't raise my kids like that. So, but my voice is this today, is that I have seen I haven't been a part of a lot of it, but Laura L. Thomas has been aggressive in some ways, that her voice has been contrary to what unity means to me as a person and a family-oriented community. And I don't know much, but I know the water thing and the police department, the shaming of someone who quit, and also now the arts and cultures. I don't know much. I don't know hardly anything, but I do know her attitude that I've seen on several meetings does not bring unity to a community. And when you're wasting this much time, and this is more time than I think someone should deserve when this happens, when she shames the public and we have to pull back our community and use our tax dollars to eliminate the what's contrary to the family environment, which is unity, is her voice, is shaming volunteers and the cultural arts and whatever it took, documents to farmers or however fear she instills in people in that way that don't have a voice is a wrong way to use community resources and my tax dollars. So I would support centering her. I would support that no more wasted time on Laura Thomas. We have climate change, we have fires, we have other important things than Laura L. Thomas, but centering her would be the best thing for our community. I've seen her voice, and it's not something that brings unity for my ideals. And as I know none of you, really. I know none of you, but I have a voice. In what I've seen, I come from Centennial, good school district early on, but a community can go down very rapidly, as we see our nation has fallen because of division, and all we see is divisiveness. And when you put that at the forefront of things, that's what you think a community is about, a nation, a world. And our kids need better. They need to see that Douglas County, which a hard-earned, respectable, unique, one of the best communities in the nation, at least from what I have read and seen, a facilitated community, economically supported by intellectual people that pay their bills for the most part and have an interest in their own values to promote the good. And I would support those that work with them, and I appreciate your service on my tax dollars. Abe Layden and county commissioners, I've seen Abe. Abe walks way far ahead. He has a vision, and I don't know you, Laura, much, but when you have a baggage to walk ahead, it gets heavy. And we don't need baggage right now. We're going to have enough as we face. I work with the homeless, and I have a voice in that aspect. I don't have much else.
You do, and ma'am, I hate to interrupt, but we are past. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here. I appreciate your comments. Any other citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Douglas County. I'm John Anderson. I was 40 years police commander for Castle Rock, and I lived in Douglas County for 67 years. 40 years in Castle Rock Police put me in a lot of positions of being involved in politics. Before that, as a business in cattle, I still am. It puts me in business and politics. And I'm here to share, I'm going to give you a line of things that about Commissioner Thomas I think the public should know. I have never, in my entire life here living in Douglas County, have witnessed such hatred, bulliness, misleading coming from Commissioner Thomas. And it doesn't stop right here in Douglas County or with Castle Rock, which I'll touch on here in a minute. I can go back as far as when Laura Thomas worked for the Colorado State Patrol. And there's a lot of detail to this, which I will not go into, but she did not get her way. So what did she do? She bullied her way and filed a lawsuit against the State Patrol in the state of Colorado to where they got tired of listening to her bully, and they finally wrote her a check and got rid of her. Then she ran for coroner here, and the people who worked for her were horrified by her leadership. Many of them quit. Her term ran out, and Jill Roman became coroner, and Jill Roman would testify if she was here, but she's in Minnesota now, that Laura bullied her for a position with the coroner, and when that didn't happen, all hell broke loose. Not only does Laura Thomas want power as a coroner, she wanted to exercise that power to homicide south of Castle Rock. Having no regard for the victim's family, she publicly said that she wanted power and control of the homicide situation and fought the sheriff's office, Sheriff Weaver. Sheriff Weaver, I don't know the details of this, but somehow locked the doors of the coroner's office because their officers are joined. It blocked her out of the candy machine, the vending machine. She was irate. It went to Channel 9 News. Don't take my word for it. Look up Channel 9 News over the vending machine. All right. Now, as commissioner, we talk about her uncalled for conduct. The town of Castle Rock has full jurisdiction of the Douglas County Fairgrounds. It is within the town of Castle Rock. Their home rule. They write their laws there. They police there. They do everything, but not Laura Thomas, not Commissioner Thomas. She wants power of the fairgrounds. So what does she do? She tells, this is in writing, public, that the town of Castle Rock has no power there, no jurisdiction, and she's going to do what she wants to do. In fact, it went as far as calling Councilman Tim Dietz misinformed, uneducated, what have you, and Councilwoman Laura Cavey basically a liar. Laura Cavey was appalled. Well, She pushed that issue, and finally, the town of Castle Rock spoke up, the attorney, and said, we have full authority of the Douglas County Fairgrounds, all the way from liquor licensing authority, building authority, law enforcement, the Castle Rock Police Department. And Laura Thomas, I guarantee you, you have not heard the last of her yet on this, because she wants that power. You're disruptive, Laura. You're disruptive to these gentlemen here, too. Stop it. In your article, read her articles, her monthly articles. Every article trashes these guys. Are you that perfect where you never make a mistake? Are you? Because you never admit to nothing. You're always right. Well, you're more wrong than you are right. Admit it. There's something wrong if you can't. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Additional citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity. I'd like to read this into the record, if I may.
And sir, if you want to just state your name and where you're from.
Dan Meyer, Highlands Ranch, the most beautiful place in the world. If I could have my way regarding censure, I'd like to strike the word politics and politicians from the English language. I'm here today to oppose what I see as politics as usual. There should never be censure of Laura Thomas or any public servant. The term censure implies some level of malfeasance. It also implies someone is guilty until proven innocent. And that is a direct violation of our Bill of Rights. At best, censure goes under the spirit and intent of our Constitution, written in part to ensure this kind of censure under King George will never happen again in what has now become the divided states of America. At worst, censure is a blend of defamation and slander, both. Now, I'm not a material witness to what's going on here. I don't like the feel of what's going on here. I'm a resident of Highlands Ranch and a proud taxpayer to this beautiful county. To be clear, I supported Laura Thomas's run for sheriff, and I'll support her again if she decides to continue her public service after her tenure as the Douglas County Commissioner expires. That aside, I strongly oppose, in the strongest possible terms, censure of her or any public servant of the people. Censure, becomes censorship, period. It smacks of politics. It's not right. It's an infringement of free speech. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being with us. Additional citizen comment? Yes, ma'am.
Christiane Blevins with Littleton, Colorado. Thank you for the opportunity to address the public in a decision that has drawn criticism from our elected official. While it's completely understandable that differing viewpoints can emerge, I stand before you to shed light on why our decision was made in the best interest of Douglas County. First and foremost, I want to emphasize that our primary goal is the welfare and progress of our great county. We operate in good faith, and every decision we made is guided by SCFD guidelines, collaboration, and thorough analysis of every grant application. I failed to mention that I am on the cultural board, and so I am defending our position. Our focus is not to be confined to the present moment, but it extends to long-term well-being of Douglas County and its residents. Learning how to best allocate budget overages for equitable spread in a challenge that we did not take lightly. The uniqueness of each applicant challenges is difficult to compare. We understand concerns expressed by Commissioner Laura Thomas, and we appreciate her dedication to serving our community. However, our responsibility is to weigh all aspects and bring exposure within the cultural arts and science community to all Douglas County residents. Our committee is comprised of volunteers with various backgrounds, each bringing unique insights and experiences to the table. We value diversity of thought and embrace constructive criticism as it strengthens our decision-making and ensures that we explore all avenues before reaching a conclusion. We stand behind our decision as one that was thoughtfully considered, and we believe based on this is the best interest for Douglas County. While we acknowledge and respect differing viewpoints, our commitment remains unwavering to bring the county towards progress and prosperity within the cultural arts and sciences community for Douglas County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Additional citizen comment? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard today. I want to begin being very clear why I am here and why my choice to be put on the public record, I believe, matters. I am here before you today in no official capacity with any organization, but as a private citizen who was given countless hours of community service with many organizations in Douglas County. From my heart space is the Douglas County School District, where I served on the District Accountability Committee and chaired the joint subcommittee that brought the bond and mill levy forward for $300 million and proposed that to the board successfully in 2018. Volunteerism is essential to this community, to all communities. It is the backbone that makes the community thrive. And any attempt to discourage what I believe everyone in this room should take to heart is a serious, serious concern. Regardless of political affiliation or official title, we need good public community volunteers as much as we need good, servant-hearted elected public officials. And when we find ourselves in a situation that is counterproductive for our community stemming from individual or collective actions, I support taking measures to address wrongdoings in a professional, concise, and factually correct manner. My hope is that the outcome of today is an opportunity for better understanding that words matter. To find the worst in each other serves no one. To seek the good truth behind one's intentions is vital if we are to move forward as a community. Please consider the importance of elevating voices doing good work in our community. Please consider being good and kind in your thoughts of those who choose to serve in any volunteer capacity. And please consider elevating as you evaluate your positive words about those who are publicly serving for the public good in Douglas County. As a private citizen does not volunteer for the fame, glory, or good fortune. We volunteer with the intent of elevating the human experience in our communities for the greater good, with no credit, no pay, and most often, no thank yous. We do it because volunteering is our heart's calling. Commissioners, I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to address you today as a private citizen of this community, wanting nothing more than to love and impact others for the higher and greatest good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Additional citizen comment?
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
ma'am.
I didn't get that person's name, I'm sorry.
Ma'am, do you want to state your name and where you're from for the record?
My apologies. Marco Fields from Castle Pines.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Jamie Hambley. I'm from Castle Rock, Colorado. I actually had no idea I was going to speak. I just decided to speak just based on a lot of the stuff I'm hearing. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot. Getting involved in stuff is just stuff that, has happened in the last couple of years for me. But I can tell you, I mean, just hearing a lot of concerning things, sorry, I don't remember your name, but the gentleman was saying stuff like, with overtures, we've always just presented it to the county and they just do what we say. That's a little concerning to me. I don't feel like commissioners should ever just do what people say, whether they're volunteers or not. You guys are supposed to be about our best interests. I would want questioning and all of those things to be happening. I would never want a board that just does what they say all the time. That was a little concerning to hear. What I will say is I've seen discourse all around. I've come to other meetings where I've seen all members be diskind or be uncourteous. I'm not going to say it's just one member. I feel like that's pretty silly to say. I've seen it on all sides. As for misinformation, I'm a little tired of that word. It's been going on a lot, especially since 2020 hit. Misinformation is not what you think isn't real. I think that we've definitely found in the last couple of years the misinformation is now coming out as truth. I had been labeled lots of people, that's misinformation, how could you say that? Now I have those same people coming back to me saying, oh wow, I apologize, the truth came out, it wasn't misinformation, it was truth. So for me, I personally would love to see this concrete evidence and not just, what people are saying. I also think we're going to lose both our county and this country if we keep running on hurting everybody's feelings. We're in this whole feeling generation where we're just supposed to be kind and we're not supposed to step on anybody's feelings. Yeah, well, in the midst of us doing that, we're going to lose our country because of not standing up for real truth. So I feel like a lot of this stuff is a witch hunt. I think it's ridiculous. And as far as, my tax dollars, I'm tired of seeing these lawsuits. I'm tired of knowing my tax dollars are going for this ridiculousness that's happening. So I'm going to say to the three of you, it's all three of you that need to get your act together and start treating each other better.
Thank you, ma'am. Additional citizen comment? Any additional citizen comment?
If I can have 15 seconds.
Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we only do one.
Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage.
Thank you, ma'am. We only allow one citizen comment per person, please, just to be out of fairness. Thank you. Troy, do we have any citizen comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have one online comment. Jeanette, you're unmuted. Go ahead. Oop. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeanette Eyrich. I am a third-generation Colorado native. I have resided in Adams County, within the city and county of Denver, unincorporated Arapahoe County, and now Douglas County. I joined the Cultural Council because I wanted to give back, because I was one of the recipients and one of the people that benefited from the types of programs that this SFCD funds. It was distressing to see that somebody who simply disagreed with what we had done would use the opportunity and what I would characterize as a bully pulpit to shame volunteer citizens who did the best work that we knew how to do. I think that we spent hours reviewing over 50 different grant applications. We scored them on 5 different categories, and we used that basis information for a starting point. I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. I have no problem if you don't like the way that we did it. I have no problem if you would have preferred for it to be done a different way. But to somehow use not just the words, but the tone in such a derogatory manner is not acceptable. I am one of those business owners. My tax dollars, my employment dollars go to this county. When my public reputation is damaged because information is put out there that is untrue, or simply because you don't agree with what we've done, my reputation is harmed. My business reputation is harmed. My business income and your tax income is harmed. For that reason, I obviously am strongly in support of the censure. And if given the opportunity, I would do it the way we did it again. The system and the matrix that we used is beneficial both in years where there is a surplus and in years where there is a deficit. It worked out to be fair in what we thought to all organizations and thus all of Douglas County residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Irick. Additional citizen comment?
Thank you, sir. I have no additional online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
So I would like to address a couple of things that were said.
Please.
I was not the only commissioner who asked the Cultural Council to review their numbers, not once but twice. Abe, you joined me in that request, did you not?
I'll respond once you're done with your comments, Commissioner.
Okay, so just one commissioner cannot tell someone else to do. It takes a majority, it takes two or more. And so it was Commissioner Layden and I that asked the Cultural Council, not once but twice, to go back and look at the numbers and provide the excess funding to organizations in Douglas County. I did not post anybody's picture or their name in a public place. I attached a link to a public website that lists the names of people who are volunteers on a board. When someone raises their hand and says, I want to get involved in government, and you make choices about how money is spent, the rest of the taxpayers have the right to know who made that decision. That is why the names of all the people who are on our advisory boards are listed on our website. I did vote on that Friday to keep all the money in Douglas County as the Cultural Council voted the recommendations, not because I agreed with it, but because it was more important that those dollars stay in Douglas County and not come to the county, and that's why I voted for that. And when the other comments are made, I would like to have a closing comment.
Additional commissioner comment? I'll just add, because I was referenced that at all times, commissioners have the ability and right to ask questions of anything related to public funds, and I really appreciate the citizen comment with that regard. We are fiscal hawks. We take every penny very seriously, but there's a way of asking questions and having conversations that is professional and respectful, and then there is publicly shaming volunteers with inaccuracies, which is what we just heard from 3 of our Cultural Council members. So I just want to draw that distinction. I did have questions. They answered my questions. Commissioner Teal.
I'm comfortable letting the resolution encompass my my comments for the record.
Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. Michael, if Michael is here.
Chair, it's always a time-honored tradition when it comes to censure that the censured member may speak, but was there something else the censured member was considering beyond speaking?
Yes, I do have a presentation that I would like to have played, please.
Again, obviously this is strange. This is a different situation from our norm, but it's tradition over and over again in American censure proceedings that the censured member may speak. I'm not saying my research was all-encompassing, but I have yet to see an instance where it noted the censured member may summon IT staff and make a presentation.
And I will agree with that without board direction, no single commissioner, including myself, can direct staff to do anything. You're welcome to say whatever you'd like, but it does have to be germane to the regular agenda item for a censure of Commissioner Laura Thomas. So Commissioner Thomas, if you have something specific to say with regard to this agenda item, we would welcome that. I am going to hold order in this room for all of you, including Commissioner Thomas's husband in the back. We are going to keep order. It is not your turn, sir. It's not your turn. Commissioner Thomas?
Chair, this could be something that the censured member says instead of playing recordings like this is some kind of reality TV show. Maybe we could just vote if she doesn't care to speak.
Would you like to speak, Commissioner Thomas?
This is my voice. It's speaking right here.
Well, no, this is a recording. Well, tell you what, as long as it's your voice, maybe that's fine.
So, Commissioner, if you'd like to make any comments, now is your time.
I would like to play my video, and my voice is speaking.
Well, again, Chair, it's a time-honored tradition when censure is applied in American government that the censured member may speak. It's just not, it's not that the censured member may show a political campaign show. We had a member of the public speak against the politics and speak against the business as usual politics we see around the country.
I cannot hear. Commissioner Thomas, I'm going to ask you to turn your video off so we can hear one commissioner at a time, please.
Or, Chair, we could just vote.
I still have the right to speak. You guys have been trying to silence me for 2.5 years. Here's another example that I am prepared to provide my defense, and you're not interested in listening to it. So I will read what I have in my video here. I'm Laura Thomas. I have served my community for 6.5 years as your county commissioner, 4 years as your county coroner, and 26 years as a member of the Colorado State Patrol. I have always looked you in the eye and directly shared with you the unvarnished truth. But some people just can't handle the plain, direct truth. In fact, they dislike and even sometimes fear the truth. That is why we are here today. I have been accused of shaming the Cultural Council simply for telling the public exactly what this Public Advisory Council did. That they refused to keep $85,000 of your Douglas County tax dollars in Douglas County. Instead, giving your money to organizations outside Douglas County with no guarantee that that funding will benefit your county. I have been accused of shaming first responders. Me, a 26-year law enforcement veteran with a distinguished and trailblazing record, accused of mistreating first responders by someone who has never spent a day in his life on the job, in the line of duty, putting his life on the line for others. Abe Layden has decided it was shaming when I shared a public document outlining corruption and nepotism in the Douglas County Sheriff's Department, even though the $24,000 investigation of me with your tax dollars exonerated me. But if Abe Layden decides something, that's the way it is, whether it happens to be true or not. I have been accused of shaming the Douglas County Community Foundation because President Brock Smethels asked the commissioners to give DCCF $200,000 but refused to provide me with budget or other information I requested before the matter came to a vote. I voted against giving this nonprofit, on whose board Layden sits, $200,000 of your dollars. I have been accused of shaming Lockheed Martin simply because I opposed giving this multi-billion-dollar corporation $500,000 of your tax dollars for an incubator to build business, because it is not the role of county government to choose winners and losers, pick favorites, or fund private business. On Tuesday, August 15th, Abe Layden said, and I quote, "We have talked about incivility and addressing that as a board ad nauseum here. It is codified in our Commissioner's Code of Conduct 2.3, and specifically what we had talked about and agreed upon as a board is that commissioners shall conduct themselves at all times in a manner that is professional, respectful, courteous, and civil towards one another." So I have a video here of this board in action for several meetings that shows incivility that I wanted to show you, but I've been silent, so you can't see that. Whether as a law enforcement veteran with 26 years of distinguished and trailblazing service, as the first woman captain and major in the Colorado State Patrol, or as your county coroner who rooted out corruption, including the theft of drugs and guns, and reducing that budget by a third, or as your county commissioner who has served as a visionary, a fiscal hawk, and a compassionate partner who supported mental health programs for both adults and kids, my record of service is truly unsullied. So what is a censure? According to dictionary.com, it means to criticize or reproach in a harsh or vehement manner. It means, in this case, that the tyranny of the majority, their 2 votes against my 1 vote, has attempted time and time again to tarnish my name and reputation simply because I refuse to go along to get along and only do and say as they approve. Rather than enter into deals with another commissioner to support an agenda favoring cronies and special interests, I look at each item before me and decide what is best for the residents and businesses of Douglas County. It is about all of you, not my buddies or my political future. It's the difference between service and self-interest. These 2 tried to censure me in April of 2021 and backed down when the public told them they were out of line. So I have 17 months left in office, and at this rate, with these 2, regular censure may very well become the order of the day, because I do not work for them, and I will never back down from their slurs, their threats, and intimidation, no matter what. Given the obvious motives, standards, and qualities of these 2 self-appointed chieftains, my public criticism, rebuke, or verbal reprimand really means less than nothing. This action does not affect my status, my salary, my ability to vote on matters of importance to the people of Douglas County. These 2 without cause or proven allegations, we heard about evidence. Let's talk about proven allegations against me. There are none. Have summarily removed me from boards and commissions that I've served on faithfully with honor for years. They have denied me the ability to appoint citizens from my district onto citizen advisory boards, a privilege they each continue to enjoy and exercise. They have taken every possible opportunity to marginalize me, the senior commissioner, for the past 2.5 years. I will never back down to a couple of bullies. I will never stop sharing with you all of the direct and unvarnished truth about what is going on with your government that you expect to serve your interests rather than that of cronies and special interests. I will continue to serve with professionalism and represent the interests of Douglas County residents and businesses to the very best of my ability. Thank you for the honor of serving you, and God bless to all.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Additional further comments from commissioners.
Well, if it pleases the board, I do have a motion to approve a resolution for the formal censure of Douglas County Commissioner Laura Thomas.
Seeing no second, I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Well, I will tell you, very few people in this community understand what it is to be a commissioner, and I understand that. It's a very rare role, but I will tell you, in my 5 years of being a county commissioner, I've yet to see somebody with so many challenges and broken relationships and a persistent desire to be uncivil and mar the reputation of this county. Commissioner Thomas, you're allowed to speak. You're always allowed to speak. We welcome questions. We welcome disagreement. We welcome conversation, as county commissioners have done since county commissioners ever existed. But for some reason, in 20 years, you have a history of broken relationships. And the common denominator in all of your broken relationships is you. We just heard directly from all of the citizens in our community about how you have tarnished their reputation in the business community. It's okay to share.
It wasn't all of the citizens
I
of this
listened
county.
to what you had to say. It's not your turn, right? We heard from the citizens that have devoted, a gentleman right here who has devoted 5 years of his life unpaid as a volunteer on the Cultural Council, developing a rubric that serves the citizens of this community whose business reputation you have tarnished. That is not the truth. When you say that his rubric doesn't serve Douglas County, you're tarnishing his reputation. That's exactly how. When you insinuate that the Community Foundation is somehow doing something inappropriate, you insinuated that the money that they were raising from Douglas County was being used for their gala, when $0 of those expenditures from the county were being used for that. And sir, Mr. Thomas, I'm going to ask that you not attack fellow members of this community. That's Marco Fields from the Community Foundation. If you keep it up, sir, this is not your hearing room, and I will have you ejected. That's a criminal offense, and I will call security to have you removed. That's a criminal offense, sir. I will ask you to keep it in order right now. Again, this sort of behavior from Commissioner Thomas, her husband, and the people that she marshals to this room to attack this community will no longer be tolerated. And I will support the motion. Is there any further discussion?
Just an opportunity to mention once again that the censure is already in place. The board has voted to impose it. This is merely an opportunity to set the record. Thank you all who did come forward to add your voice to the record. Regardless of which side you're on, that will be, I'm sure, very much appreciated. I do speak in favor of the motion.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
And that passes 2-1. So with that, we will move on to our next item in our agenda today, which is any additional citizen comment, organizational comments. At this time, yes, sir?
If I may.
Sure.
I actually did change my plans for the day. I was planning on representing the county at the Colorado Water Congress starting at noon today. I'm obviously behind schedule to attend to the matters before the board. May I be excused?
Commissioner Till, you are excused. Thank you for your representation of us at Water Congress. Returning back to our agenda, any additional citizen comment or organization comments on any item that was not on our agenda today? And again, you will have 3 minutes if you have anything for us today. Any citizen comment in the room or online with regard to any item that was...
Using an agenda meaning just with the business part of it, or any meeting that you have held in the past?
So, ma'am, we have items on our agenda that have been posted and scheduled, so these would be any comments not related to items on the agenda.
Nothing of it, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no additional citizen comment, I'll close citizen comment. Any additional business for the county today? And then I'll look to our county manager. Anything for the county manager?
I did want to mention in the county manager report, it's been a tough year for some county employees. There's a little article about Abid Khan, who passed away, and our CIOs back there. Abid had joined us just a few years back and after our hard battle with cancer, and so just want to recognize and mark his passing. And also, before it was published, we had some just tragic news from our treasurer's office. Chief Deputy Pat Neef passed away after her battle, her 28 years of service. She loved her community. She loved the county. I had the pleasure of meeting Pat and working with her when she brought, about 20 years ago, she brought an ethical concern with some of our investments, and I learned at that time just how special and bright and ethical she was. And boy, she is missed deeply by the treasurer and by the staff there. As of just a few weeks ago, she would, while suffering immensely, would be calling into every meeting her successor, Tanya, just to make sure. That just kind of, her passing, I couldn't think of anybody that worked harder, that cared more. So may God rest her soul. I don't have any information on any services at this time. It's probably something down the road is what I'm told. So I just didn't want to let Pat's passing go unmarked. So thank you.
So, Mr. DeBoard, thank you for that, and thank you for your decades of service to the county. I know in many years you have hired and seen those with remarkable talent labor on behalf of those that elected us. So we certainly mark that passing with dignity as well. Thank you for raising that.
Doug, thank
Anything
you.
else for the county manager?
Doug, thank you for bringing that up. After being here for 7 years and 4 years as the coroner, I certainly knew Pat, saw her in the hallway. She was always friendly, really dedicated to the county, and her loss not only is huge to the county, but to her family as well. So thank you for reminding us all about Pat. And I did not know the gentleman in IT, but I appreciated reading about him in the manager's report. So John, thank you for sharing that with Doug for the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Any additional commissioner comments? I have none further. We are going to adjourn. Our next business meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 12, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. We're going to take a 5-minute recess and then reconvene for our public hearing. Thank you very much.